another guest.
My favorite episode.
And it's a new year. Happy New Year, ladies.
Happy New Year, ladies.
We're going to clink, clink, clink to a good show. Cheers. It's our first recording of the new year. Yum, yum, yum. Before we get into all the good combo we're about to have, please remember to rate, review, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Ding, 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 ding. So today we have Miss Sarah.
Hello, everyone. Greetings.
You want to introduce Sarah?
So, I'm going to fangirl a little bit.
Okay. That's why I felt like it was appropriate for you to do the intro.
So I might not do this justice because I'll be too excited. But Sarah Scandone.
Yes.
Right? She is the owner of Nourish, and to me, like a vegan queen, plant-based, everything. I have never had a bad meal from Nourish.
Wonderful.
So,
that's good to hear.
We might include like a professional bio in the
Yes,
description of the podcast today, but we're so excited to talk to you about anything and everything healthy and whatever off-topic thing we end up talking about, because
you know how we do.
Go off topic. But yeah, we're just so excited to have you on the show. Thank you for agreeing to be on the show.
Thank you.
And
I know you're a busy woman.
Yes, busy woman.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here and to talk a little bit about, or a whole lot about, natural, healthy living and, plant-based eating and just ways for us to get healthy.
Yes.
I'm
Especially
excited.
now.
Yes, especially now.
Yeah.
I'm excited, especially because I am a self-proclaimed carnivore. I love all things fried goodness. Loves me a cheesesteak. I'm a Philly girl. And the first thing I had from Nourish that you bought me was the Philly John cheesesteak. I thought there was meat in there. They lied. No, it was so good. It was so good. You know how you could test it out when it's really good? When you warm it up the next day. Because I didn't finish it. So I had the rest of it the next day. I was like, okay, so I'm going to have to go back down there and go get more because this was too good. And when I posted it, I hadn't heard about the restaurant until you started talking about it, because of course I'm looking for meat, so I wasn't looking in that direction. Right. But when I took a picture and I posted it, a lot of people did know about the restaurant. They were like, "Oh, you need to go back and get the chicken cheesesteak." Yeah. I'm like, okay.
When me and Kyle found out about it, we were like randomly, I think it was either on Instagram or YouTube, and someone was like a vlogger or influencer had tasted the chicken sandwich. Mm-hmm. And this person was a self-proclaimed carnivore too, and said that this was the best chicken sandwich he had ever had in his life.
Right, like not for a
plant-based.
Right, exactly, but just that good.
Right.
Like I don't want my substitute to taste like a substitute, and that did not. Yeah. It just didn't.
And then we went and we ordered the Philly John and what you got, and the chicken sandwich, and we've been like there ever since. And then when the locations changed because of reasons that you can talk about here or not, when you have your new location, then we obviously started going over there, started ordering the meal preps that you offer, and have just like, we can't stop talking about it to people that we know, because especially when you try to tell someone that you're vegan or plant-based or eat different from them, they may look at it like, well, what are you really eating? Right. What is this?
Like, what are you eating, rabbit
food? Oh yeah, we get that a lot for sure.
So
I don't know. I think I could eat some rabbit food. I kind of like what rabbits do.
Right.
So that was just being able to share an establishment like yours to someone who, if you didn't know, you wouldn't know. Kind of thing.
Right, for sure. We definitely make eating plant-based or going vegan very easy. A lot of people say that during transition. We have the transitional type of food as well, because when you're used to eating a certain way, which we all are, we're raised in America especially to eat certain foods, and we're all raised on that. So it's hard to go outside of that, Right. So we try to provide a lot of transitional food like that, so people that are like skeptical about it be able to have some stuff this is delicious, and not go so far out of your comfort zone to not have a chicken cheesesteak or a Philly cheesesteak, which we call the Philly John at the cafe. But it makes it easy for people to transition, and for people to try to even not even transition, just be able to give a break from eating meat every single day as well too.
Right. And especially in the new year, when a lot of people are doing like the Meatless Monday or Dry January, something like this, I think is easier of a transition for them to try. Mm-hmm. So, and also being Caribbean, like we grew up on rice and beans and any meat included in their oxtail, all that stuff we offer as an alternative. But again, delicious alternatives to kind of what we remember growing up on and eating as we were, growing up.
I feel like that's why a lot of diets fail, because it's like, what you mean I can't have rice no more? Like when you first start any type of lifestyle change, you're all excited and you're gung-ho about it. You're like, I'm gonna do this, and then weekend comes and you're like, wait, but I can't have no fried food, it's the weekend. That next thing you know, that diet is out the window. So it's very much a lifestyle change. I don't know if I could ever, I don't know, you never say never, be fully vegan, but I would like to incorporate some of those transitional foods.
Right, just giving it, like you say, on a meatless Monday or something like that. Just choosing, and I help people transition into going vegan or plant-based or alkaline, all those things. And it starts with just choosing one meal a day, because most people eat meat 3 times a day. So it's even saying, okay, one meal a day, let's not eat meat, just because for the health purposes at this point, because, and it's not necessarily that meat was so bad. I think it's the meat now, because when we were growing up, it was very different, especially like you said, in the Caribbean, it was very different. Things are still grown naturally. They're fed natural foods, eating in
off the land.
Right. And food is very, very different. Even vegetables are different now. So it's definitely, so it's nice to choose one meal a day or an entire day, 3 days of the week or something like that. I try to transition people like that as well too, just to make it easier and just give your body a little bit of a rest from eating, so much processed or so much, animal-based foods as well.
No, I think that doing something like Meatless Monday, where I already know, okay, on Monday I'm going into, I'm not going to have meat. I have to be prepared. So I'm like, all right, Meatless Monday, I can do that.
Right, and it's interesting you say that. I think 95% of vegans, right before they go vegan, they say, I could never be vegan. I know I said that.
I was like, I'm not going to say never.
I definitely said that. I was like, oh no, I grew up eating, I'm very healthy because I was raised with a huge garden and natural still, but we ate meat, and just regular foods. But I was open to all different types of food. So thankfully I was not like vegan food. No, I was still open to everything as I got older. But I think most of us, because we're used to it, like, I could never stop eating.
It's comfortable.
Right. I mean, I grew up eating, I would love bacon and all these things that we shouldn't be eating, but I just, and then went vegan. I had a roommate in college and was like, oh no. And then I started being more educated about it, and more of my friends were vegan and or plant-based or vegetarian. I think back then it was vegetarian.
Vegetarian was the thing.
Yeah.
So talk a little about alkaline. I know you've mentioned alkaline in your stories, and I think it's something that people are starting to be a little more interested about now, figuring out like, what does alkaline mean and how can you incorporate that into your lifestyle or your diet?
Yeah, sure. So vegan and plant-based, vegan was the original, how it starts, just eating more of that transitional food. There's a little bit more processed food involved in that. And then plant-based, people are now going more towards, okay, we're eating more plants. We're not just going to eat these same types of foods and just have them in a processed, food source, a lot of the Beyond Meats and things like that. Not to knock that if you're eating that, that's your choice. But it's better to get more plants in our diet, because it's, why eat more processed food? Going from eating unhealthy food to eating more processed food isn't that much more healthy, so you kind of want more plants. And then another level of it would be alkaline food. So we have a pH level in our bodies that is either acidic or alkaline, and processed, fried, animal-based, any of these types of foods are going to be acidic on the body, which causes a lot of inflammation and disease. And that's, the mucus, and that's where the disease lies in the body. So we go, I love alkaline food. It's kind of just the food that I prefer. And then I learn as I, got older, these are alkaline foods, and I just feel so great on them. But in any case, the foods, they are original, like God-made foods, basically, like the original foods before they've been genetically modified in any way, or even hybrids. So we're not even really eating hybrids when you get to that point. And the point of it is basically raising your alkalinity of the body, so then no disease can live in an alkaline environment. So you're alkalizing your cells. So you're trying to raise your alkalinity, your pH levels to a certain level, so no disease can live in there. And primarily it's people that they go alkaline, or when I'm working with somebody with cancer or diabetes or very serious, diseases of the body, or even basic ones, going alkaline can really help remediate them, very quickly. So that's kind of like the basis. And it's really just and you notice it, you feel it in your body. It's just very natural food, and it just, digests well. You can assimilate the nutrients well. It's not processed. It doesn't create, there's things like a seedless watermelon would not be, a seeded watermelon is alkaline, but a seedless is not, because once they've genetically modified or they've altered our food that we're eating from its God's state, then now it's producing too much sugar in the body. So it's all these different things that start to disrupt our natural flow.
Seedless watermelon.
Right. Like everybody wants seedless water. I remember when we were all children, we had seeds in our watermelon, right? And of course,
and we thought
it was annoying, right? Everybody's like, oh, I don't want to spit out. And now all you find is seedless.
That's insane.
Anywhere you go, it's just seedless. So those are simple, like that's a basic one of it. But when it's modified like that, it changes how it reacts with our body. And it has higher levels of sugar in it because they've now taken out the natural ways that it grows, kind of thing. So it's just raising your alkalinity and your pH levels.
Okay. I feel like I see that a lot more now, like the alkaline water.
Oh, yeah.
Like you just see it everywhere now.
It's very popular, and it got very popular during the time. Dr. Sebi was very well known for that, and he became very prevalent and predominant in our community, which is really wonderful to see it grow so well. And of course, Nipsey Hussle being informative about that and telling the community. So it came into the Black community so strong and it's wonderful because that is a community that was not informed as much, and by design in certain food deserts and in certain communities to keep certain things out of people's palate, basically out of their plates.
I love to see it. It just makes it more convenient for people, because even if you never heard of it and you never were interested in it, you could go to your local supermarket now and see something labeled alkaline or water or whatever. You're like, okay, well let me see what that is, and now you have people interested in doing that Google search and like, okay, maybe this is something I should look into. So it's nice to see, and it makes it easier for people.
Absolutely, and I say that even with the restaurant, like this is something that should be normalized. Like where it's normal to eat all these unhealthy foods and things we've always known about. So let's start to normalize plant-based, and thankfully it's huge. It's a huge industry now. I've been in the health food industry for years, let it be working for health food stores and the herb departments, and more so on that side of it, the herbal side of it, but still, of course, because I've been vegan and vegetarian the whole time, seeing that side. But it has grown so much, and the industry, and just watching, I go to health expos and big, events for the products that they're selling and the different things, and they've grown so much over the last, I've been vegan vegetarian for like 23 years at this point, so it was very different. Like you said, going in a store and seeing stuff, they're like, oh, I can see, I'm more, it's more readily available for you. Because back then it wasn't. People tell me now, oh, it's hard. I was like, oh,
you don't even know. You probably have to go to a special store to get the one ingredient where now you can. Your regular local chains have it. Before it was like, no, this specialty health store, the one little one, and they only open half the week. That's where you get that one ingredient.
I took my food everywhere with me. For so many of my family used to say that, oh, Sarah and her food is here.
Yes,
they used to pick on me so much. Everybody used to pick on me so much for bringing food, and not wanting to try it. And then slowly, thankfully, over time, they're like, what do you have? And what are you trying? Like, and then I've owned restaurants for years. So I think people are like, okay, she must be a good cook.
She must be on to something.
Yeah, right. So they're like, hey, what'd Sarah bring? Because people are really a lot more open to it and just more informed. And I think that's what it is. Again, it's not, people aren't informed about it. So it's good to at least have alternatives, and do it in moderation if it's something that you're starting at first. I'm not that person that's like, you have to go this way. It's like, just learn about it and try to like get a little bit healthier. Because again, one side of it is I work with a lot of very, very sick people. And unfortunately, people don't say, oh, I want to look at my diet or I don't want to look at my health until they get sick. It's like, so let's try to take care of ourselves a little bit more before we get to that place, and that's just with the balance.
Like even just piggybacking off of that, like as a nurse, a lot of my patients didn't change their habits until after we're like, okay, well, you have this or X, Y, and Z heart disease, but okay, well, I'm going to stop smoking today and I'm going to stop eating this today. But you can't change the past. You've lived like this for 30 or 40, 50 years. Yes, you can make some changes and it's going to help, but it's not going to cure you. But unfortunately, it isn't to that point where we're like, oh crap, okay, I got diabetes now. They're talking about taking my toe. Let me see what else
once
I
you
can
get to
have.
that point. And thankfully, I actually, because I work with so many people with serious disease like that, or serious dis-ease of the body, we should put it like that more so. I see that the food really makes a difference. As soon as they come off certain foods, they start to heal right away. And I've had doctors come in and sit down with me because they see such change in their clients. They're like, wow, this is amazing. Or their patients, let's say. They're like, it's changed their everything so much. And on the other side of that too, I do see the doctors giving them, they tell me like, oh, I did get a plant-based guide to eat. So the doctors are kind of understanding now. Absolutely. And saying, okay, like you said, once they get sick, the doctor's like, okay, change your diet.
Right, exactly.
But at least they're saying that now. Before it was just take this pill. So now people, at least the education is there and the research, and people are being more informed about how to, save their lives, basically.
Yeah. Right. I know I'd mentioned this earlier, and I wasn't feeling well on Friday. I'm not going to claim the S word. Right. I wasn't feeling myself. So I took the entire day yesterday, Saturday, to rest and drink immunity teas with lemon, with turmeric, with pepper, with not honey, agave, with oranges, like hot water, coconut water, anything I can get, like natural fruits and vegetables in me. And this morning I woke up, besides having like little grogginess in my throat, I feel perfect.
Like energy was back, felt better.
Everything was back. And I'm like, why aren't we talking about this more? Now I do see more of this in my feed, for example, because I was searching this, because I follow accounts like Nourish and Pharmacy for Life and different nutritionists, and which is when we started taking black seed oil and started taking sea moss and understanding what these things do for you, that no one, I wouldn't say no one, but a lot of people don't know about. So just taking those natural things yesterday felt perfect this morning. Like Saturday never even happened.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's simple little changes that people don't realize. It's just like it does make a big difference, and it's pretty good too. It's like, oh, I can drink some herbal tea. Why not? It's like people think, oh, it's going to be horrible to heal yourself naturally, and it's like, no, this is nice. Make some, like you said earlier, ginger tea. You're having ginger. We serve it at the cafe all day. Ginger sea moss, and it stops the inflammation and then removes mucus, and our lymphatic system is a big thing, and all those things you just mentioned are going to help flush our lymphatic system, and that's a big problem that we look at so many, the immune system and all these different things, but like our lymphatic system is really serious, and getting those things to flush that out and to really replenish and be able to have lymph that's feeding our blood and our cells, healthy things that's, flushing through our body. It's like we can't putting in all this horrible stuff and expect to feel good. Our cells are what feeds us, so we need to feed ourselves the right things too.
No, you feel the difference. Like my sister and I say it all the time. We know what to do. We just don't do it. And then when we do it, we're like, oh my God, I feel so good. Like I have energy. And then you like, oh, I'm having my cheat meal that knocks you out. And you're like, oh, I feel like crap. I'm bloated. Like it just, your body is talking to you, and we just ignore it. But our bodies talk to us.
And it's amazing how fast you can feel like really bad from that too. It's like you feel so good, but at the food tastes so good,
it's that taste.
And I tell people all the time, it's not even necessarily us craving those foods. We have microbiome in the body, like the bacteria that lives in our body thrives on those things. It craves it. That's its life force. So this bad bacteria that is living on these foods for our whole lives, it's not like in a day like that, it's going to be like, oh, I can eat plants and nothing else. No, it's still like, wait, where's my sugar? Where's my complex carbohydrates? Where's my fried food? Because that's what it's living on. So it does take time. That's been our fuel
for so long.
Absolutely. And it's their fuel. So the bacteria in our gut, which controls everything else in our body, is telling us, I still want these foods. So once you change that, so it's a transition for sure, and a balance to kind of shift off those kind of things too.
You were telling us before we started recording that you weren't feeling well, and then you went to a restaurant and you had vegan or plant-based food there, and then how did that make you feel having that food?
Right, and that's what you're just saying too, how quickly you can feel bad. Like I eat very healthy. I primarily eat alkaline food. And when I actually had the C thing the other day. Well, I just tested positive for it. I never had symptoms until after the test, and I only got like a fever or whatever, but I couldn't eat. I didn't want to eat. I still had my taste and smell and everything, but I just didn't want to eat anything. None at all. And when I did, I just wanted raw food and fruit. I think because my body knows, like, let me flush this out of my body, but just replenish it with things that are going to be healthy. And so when I came, which is weird for me, when I came off that, like started to eat again, I went out a couple times and I was like, oh, let me eat this. And I'm eating bread, and I never eat bread because it causes a lot of mucus in my chest. And I can feel almost like an asthma type of feeling because when you're not eating mucus-forming foods, when you do, it instantly inflames your body. Like, instantly. And I'm like, I don't want to be this sensitive sometimes, but I am because my body's gotten so natural by eating so healthy and eating raw and then coming off of being sick. And I notice immediately, like I've eaten out probably 4 times in the last couple days or so. And it's something as basic as the seasonings. What I was saying to you ladies about like the salt content is so high, and it's even and it's healthy vegan food still, but the seasonings and the spices and stuff like that still made me feel really bad just from, I'm used to eating pink Himalayan salt all the time, and that's just an easier one for your body to digest and break down and utilize, because we do need sodium. We do need salt in our bodies, just the right kind. We don't want iodized table salt.
Exactly.
And then also not even the iodized table sauce, and a lot of people don't realize, especially eating out, even the people that are cooking in the restaurants, you're not informed about what the seasonings are. And a lot of regular seasonings, just because in America it's not the same everywhere else. When you go other places, they don't have all these additives and preservatives and all these things in food, but MSG as well. So these seasoned salts and stuff like that, you don't even realize it has a lot of very toxic chemicals in them and high levels of sodium, and that's why people are so crazy with, high blood pressure and things like that. But immediately I noticed it, and I was like, okay, I need to go eat some raw food for a couple days and drink some fresh stuff, flush everything out, because I was getting the headaches from the salt and just feeling mucusy, like you said, when you wake up. But I wasn't even sick. I was like, why am I just feeling like this? And it is from, eating out and not having as healthy of foods for sure. So I noticed how quickly you can feel bad too.
Yep. And you're like, I'm still eating plant-based vegan food.
Exactly.
It just has like that higher sodium content, or the type
or more processed.
Right, more processed. We talked about this before. Like you can be a chunky vegan. You can be an unhealthy vegan.
Very
you can
much
live off Oreos.
And
be an unhealthy
processed
vegan.
soy and stuff like. There's a lot of or just tons of carbohydrates and potatoes. I mean, back in the day, again, when I was first vegan, it was like one of my closest friends was vegan back then, or vegetarian, because he still ate cheese, and he literally ate like potatoes and cheese every day. And I was like, you can't be healthy. That's not, there's no nutrients in that.
That sounds great, but
right. You can't eat it every day, all day, because back then there was not all these restaurants at all. There was like a couple Asian restaurants that you could go to and some basic salad bars, but even back in, I think like 80s and 90s, they used to spray like MSG on the salad bars for people to like salad because it wasn't a thing,
It makes it tasty. It makes you crave it.
Right. But it's also a neurotoxin that's not good for us. And
now you see all this no MSG, no MSG. So I'm like, okay, so they're picking up on it. Like the food world is picking up on like this isn't healthy. We are now informed, and we don't want that.
Right, that's the thing, because so long people aren't informed, and that's the other side of it. It's, we just think like, okay, this food is here for us.
FDA approved. It must be right.
Exactly.
No, it is not.
It doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It doesn't mean anything at all. Let me see. I'm trying to think of it. I think I feel like I did write down a question.
There was one question we asked off camera, but I think it's funny because the answer is similar to what I usually get. Is what's the number one question that you get as a vegan or plant-based?
Right. I think, it's pretty common, and everybody knows that where do we get our protein from? They somehow become this so packed full of protein with their meat eating, that they think that vegans are not going to get protein. And it's just a thought that everybody thinks that, because we need, of course we need a balanced diet, and the other side of it is the response. I'm like, well, where do you get your nutrients from? Because you might be getting protein, but you're not getting the other spectrum of nutrients that you need for a healthy body, Sure. And when you look at alkaline food and Dr. Sabi and a lot of these different people that are Robert Morris and people talking about alkaline diets. There was a book from the 1800s, I think, or something like, I can't remember when it was written, the mucusless diet. So it's like the same things of not having these high processed foods and raising, or they're saying there isn't such a thing as protein. In that alkaline world, they'll say it's just a amino acid strain, basically, like a certain set of amino acids that make up what we now call protein. So we need those amino acids, but we shouldn't be eating food so high in protein, because that high level of animal proteins in our body is very unhealthy, and it breaks down our cells, and it's very, very unhealthy for us. But it's just this concept that we all have that we need so much protein in our diet, especially when we're dieting. You know, women always are like, oh, I should just eat
high protein, low carb.
Exactly, because we want to be thinner, you know. So, and it's really just a balanced diet, you know. But for me, with where do I get my protein? I mean, eating plants it's amazing. Like you'll notice, and when you research, you'll see that quinoa has tons of protein. Pumpkin seeds
Which
has,
I actually really enjoy.
it's nice. Yeah, it's really nice, and you can add it to salads and so many different things. And that's what it is. It's just trying things.
You
know,
that's my problem. Is I'm the child and the adult that still says I don't like that. Have you tried it? No.
Okay.
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
But I know that I
don't like that. And then once you start trying things, you know, you're like, right, this might be pretty good. And you have to have the right person cook it. Because like I also said, I've gone out the last couple of days and I'm like, I'm really surprised that I go to restaurants and I'm like, how is this food so bad?
Right.
You know, this is why people don't want to be vegan, you know, because this is what they think vegan food is.
That's their first experience trying a vegan or plant-based dish, and it was terrible. They don't want to go back.
Right, because why would I when I have these the other things? Everything else tastes good. I mean, this
I know y'all didn't know what y'all was doing. I'm not eating this.
Right,
It's like,
exactly.
You just need one bad plant-based meal to say, nope, I'm never doing this again.
Exactly, and there's a lot of places that I can see that happening. I go out places and I'm like, wow, and I'm sure people come to my restaurant, they might not like something too. I mean, there's times that, you know, it might not be made right, or they might order it wrong, or they might not like a seasoning.
Right.
So I'm sure there's that case as well. But you know, like you have to have flavor in food. You need to have, you know, you're not just putting something that tastes like cardboard bread in like a bun with like a burger. And it's like, you wouldn't eat like that if it was meat either. Exactly. You're going to add, you know, and if you just ate meat by itself, that wouldn't taste good either. Exactly. You need seasonings, and those are plants.
To the food.
You know, the seasoning is plants. So, you know, why would they think that our food isn't going to taste good if this food is what seasons everything else? But yeah, for protein, I mean, that is the most common question. I get it. Chickpeas, you know, a lot of beans, a lot of quinoa. It's an issue for people that are like bodybuilders and things like that, because it's hard to just get protein and no carbs at all, you know. So there's a balance with that. But I mean, that's definitely the most common.
With protein?
Right? I do. I use chickpea flour in a lot of things, and as a vegan, there's like 25 grams of protein per cup. So I make, you know, gluten-free cake with that.
Protein
and I'm like,
and dessert. Like,
exactly.
I'm
like, I get my protein in my cake, right?
See? Have your cake and eat it too.
Right?
Now.
But yeah, I've been vegan, vegetarian for 23 years. And back then there was really not a lot of alternatives or options, which is interesting because back in the day, our parents grew up eating healthier. Right. You know, like even though they ate meat, they were still healthier. There was not all this.
Home cooked meals.
And that's a big part of it too. The home cooking is definitely a big part of it, I would say, because you think about it, and there was not levels of obesity and such high levels of sickness in our communities in the 70s and 80s. Right. You know, it became later. And I think as food changed and as they started messing with food and making it more convenient and fast foods popped up everywhere, that's when, you know, these foods became unhealthy.
Yeah. That's like a friend of mine did you know the whole social media, like the 10-year challenges, everybody's doing that. And somebody posted yesterday, I eat the way I ate 10 years ago, but I'm gaining weight rapidly. And it's because the food has changed. Because she's like, I still eat my own weight, but back then, she was obviously, you know, age, metabolism, and all that. But the food has changed so much. She's like, I can feel it as soon as I eat something bad. Where before, she's like, I used to live off fried chicken with no problem. Not anymore. I can't do that.
Right, because it's a lot of the seasonings and the things that are on there's chemicals in it, and it's like or the chicken in itself.
Right, the chicken used to be this size, and now it's this size. And like I never see the chicken that large before.
Right, and then hormonal imbalances and all these different things because they're pumping it because it's such high demand, and the whole thing is out of balance now. You know, because back in the day I wouldn't be like, oh, it's horrible to eat chicken, but now it's not even the chicken. You're eating hormones and chemicals and saline. That's such high levels of sodium in there, and that's where before the chicken even hits the plate, there's so much sodium in there, it's going to give you a high blood pressure just in itself. So then once you add everything else to it, it's like, wait, what's happening here?
Right.
And it's when things were in season too. So if something wasn't in season, then you just couldn't have it. But now everything is always
all
in season
year round
because they've created it to be so. So like my parents were in Puerto Rico a couple weeks ago, and there's an avocado tree on their property. And they were like, you got to come down here because the avocado tree, you know. And I'm like, blooming. I'll be on the way. They're like, well, it's not in season right now, so it's not going to. You know,
they still live like that, right?
So it's like, oh, okay. You now it's always in season because they've modified it. They've done things to it so that you can have this particular item that a couple decades ago you could only have during a certain time is now available year round.
And we see that here in America for sure, but other places, when I lived in the Caribbean, I would dehydrate a lot of fruit or I would freeze it because we're like, oh, we have a plethora of mangoes right now, but in 2 months you're not going to have that, you know, and it makes you appreciate those foods, I think, as well too, because you know you just don't get it at different times, you know. But here in America, everything is imported from everywhere, and then it's also not as the nutrients aren't in there for us to be eating those things because it's coming from so far and it's out of season, and it's like we're making it, you know.
You're making it in season,
right?
like,
right.
No,
and it's like no, that can't work.
Like, no, strawberries are not in season all year round. It's not. That's why sometimes they taste sweeter than others.
Right.
And why they're so pricey sometimes.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, do I have any for a self-proclaimed carnivore picky eater like myself? What would be, I guess, like the top, let's say, like 3 foods that you think I should incorporate or switch up?
Ooh. From plant-based or from meats to plant-based, or just eating more like, or just putting more foods in your diet that's going to be right. Like I'd say trying to add, and I tell people this all the time when I'm working, even when I'm working with them, or if they're just saying, what should we do? You know, try to add foods before you take foods away. Like add and find things that you like you're going to eat quinoa instead of eating white rice. And even though that's not necessarily eating meat or animal-based foods, it's still unhealthy food. Right. So I'm not always going to say, again, I'm not going to say to somebody, don't eat this meat, but go eat soy every day because that's a plant. No, that's not the case at all. If you're going to eat one or the other, you should probably eat lean proteins, right? Okay. But cutting out white rices is definitely something that's going to greatly increase everybody's health, I think. So giving alternatives like quinoa. I mean, there's so many different grains now that you can try. And then again, you're getting more nutrients. You're getting a lot of protein, a lot of fiber, calcium, very high levels of calcium, more than milk. You know, so if you're eating and you're substituting, then adding quinoa, something like that. Of course, white sugar, again, not an animal-based food, but these are things that are the foundations of good health, you know, and cutting out white sugar is a huge problem in our society right now. Like alternatives, there's so many alternatives now. They're, like you said before, even not the honey, but going right to agave is a nice alternative. There's coconut sugars, there's beet sugars, there's so many different ways to eat, you know, different things, to get a sweetener in, you know. Of course, stevia, people say that was a plant-based one that came out a while ago, has an aftertaste and people don't love that, but it's still a better alternative. There's xylitol, there's so many sugar alternatives now to try, so that would be something I would say.
Xylitol's not bad. I've used that before.
Yeah, and it doesn't have any flavor like stevia, and it's sweet enough.
Like xylitol gum.
Yeah.
I went through this whole keto phase in my life, so I learned about like the benefits of pink Himalayan salt and just
no sugars, right? Different alternatives to sugar and stuff like that.
The good stuff out of that because I know there's a lot of bad in keto. But I learned about those things that I didn't hear about before. I'm like, okay, I can have this. It doesn't bother me, but I had to try it. I didn't know. Number one, I didn't know it existed. Number two, I had to try it before I said I didn't like it.
Right. That's a good thing to tell people, tell yourself to do, because a lot of people definitely have that. Because we've eaten a certain way. I mean, the SAD or standard American diet is, we've all had it. You know, even if you are from, your parents are from somewhere else, in our schools, in our society, it's just there. So it's great.
Think about the school lunches. Like, I'm just having a flash of all the processed food.
All the frozen
pizzas and burgers and fries. Like, that's what they serve. Well, at least that's what they served.
Yeah.
Right. I think they still serve that too. They do.
I'm pretty sure they do.
Right.
I don't think I've ever seen a salad or a green
other than like green beans, other than like canned green beans.
Canned for sure.
But that's a big thing to say, I'm willing to try things. And to open yourself up to that. I mean, that's where a lot of people just stop and they can't look past that, and to say, okay, let me just try it to see, because you might find that it's absolutely delicious, you know? I mean, of course, I definitely recommend giving up pork. I mean, I think that's because just because the very high levels of, you know, it's just so unhealthy for you, you know, and then also the parasites that are in pork and ham and all these things.
Oh yeah, watch really, What the Health.
Yeah.
That's what's good for me.
I was like, oh, come
on. Kyle had been thinking about it for a couple weeks. Like, we should really like cut out meat, like maybe just do seafood. I'm like, all right. And a nutritionist I was seeing at the time, she said, watch What the Health, and if you're really serious about it, like, that'll do it for you. Mm-hmm. And I saw it, the next day I was like, that's it.
Yeah, I don't think I finished it. I was like, I don't want this kind of negativity in my life.
Right. I don't want to not eat meat, so I'm not going to continue watching this.
I finished it, and I was like, that's it. We're cutting, not even
I saw enough.
We're going straight. And he was like, all right. And that was February of 2020.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so that did it for me.
There you go.
Like,
yeah, a lot of people ask, like, how do you do? I'm like, start watching documentaries on it. Even and people that are vegetarian, even I say watch documentaries on the dairy industry, and you'll immediately be like, oh yeah, I'm not eating that anymore. And it's not even just eating that. And I'm trying to think about back in the day. I don't even know why I went vegan or vegetarian. I worked in a health food store at the time, but it's not even just what we're putting in our body, it's what we're doing to animals.
Right.
You know, that's a
On
huge
top of
side
that,
of it
right.
as well. I mean, I'm not trying to like shame
yeah.
you for eating, and people have their own personal choices, but you know, when I'm looking at that, again, it's changed from 20, 30 years ago. America, the consumers, all of that has changed a lot. But when you look at the dairy industry, the meat industry, it's like, wow, it's torture. You know, it's really torture. And it's really unsanitary conditions also. So I'm like, wait, I'm not eating that dairy because look where that came from.
Exactly. No, it's funny you said that because I know that people will look at me and they like associate it with everything that's going on. I have a way to compartmentalize where I don't. But I said the other day, I was like, I feel like I'm at the point where I need a house with land so I can have like some animals and live off the land. I was like, that would make me go vegan or plant-based because I wouldn't be able to like raise an animal and then
kill it. A lot of people are like, okay, we don't want to see an animal dying. It's like, but wait, do you realize that you're killing that just to eat it?
Yep.
I think we pretty much all need to get back to that point right now because what's going on in America.
Exactly. I'm like, just give me like chickens and whatever.
Yeah, a lot of land and where we can grow some food.
Yes.
I would say the other
in-season fruits and veggies.
Right, exactly. I even tell people this even when they're transitioning to give up dairy first. I think dairy is actually, I'm not going to say worse. I mean, it's hard. I'm not, don't quote me that dairy is worse than meat. I agree with that. I would definitely say because there's a lot of addicting aspects or there's not chemicals, but something that dairy produces, we're addicted to. So it takes longer almost to get rid of dairy. So because the high levels of pus and bacteria and mucus how it forms mucus in the body, that I would say give up dairy first.
Yeah. No, I know that.
So, and a lot of people say that, and majority of melanated people are absolutely lactose intolerant anyway. You don't have the enzymes in the body, so it's something. And a lot of people tell me that. They're like, I feel so horrible anytime I eat ice cream or this or that. And thankfully now you can eat ice cream and people have no idea.
Right.
There's so many
because
amazing.
A substitute doesn't taste like a substitute. That's the key.
Right.
That is the key.
So, you've mentioned mucus-forming foods. For a lot of people who may not know what that is, there are also things that are considered healthy that are mucus-forming foods. What are some of the ones that you personally stay away from or would suggest people personally stay away from to have that like less mucus in their body? Right,
especially right now is a time, and since COVID started, I've really suggested it to a lot of people to really be cautious about mucus-forming foods because if we're talking about mucus and this is attacking the lung in people that are susceptible to really being broken down from it, but the mucus is a big part of it, and that to me is, it's definitely bread, which is hard for a lot of people to get rid of, but of course fried and processed foods, but looking more at like breads, soy, and that's a healthy thing. People think, I'm going vegan, I'm eating soy burgers and soy nuggets, and that creates tons of mucus in the body. Oh, wow. Tons of mucus, again, because it's also the most genetically modified food in the world now, that and corn. So soy is something that I don't really, choose to eat much of, and that even though it is plant-based and in a lot of alternative or a lot of restaurants now. Even when I came back from Jamaica, I lived in Jamaica for years and had a restaurant down there. But again, there we're definitely not eating processed food. Everything's fresh. Everything. They're cutting it and bringing it from the garden right then. Right. So I came back here and I was like, oh my goodness, all these plant-based restaurants, but it's so much processed food, and I couldn't eat anywhere. I was like, okay, I gotta open up pretty soon here
because open up my restaurant and show you how it's done.
And I'm like, I want to support, and I try to support other places, but I notice a difference, you know, immediately with the bread, but also the soy and even wheat glutens. I try not to eat. So again, like you said, you can be an unhealthy vegan by eating a lot of this highly processed, highly mucus-forming foods, you know, and that's primarily what they would be. It was a lot of breads or grains, and not ancient grains. We've heard this is a talk now. Ancient grains, which is like quinoa, teff, spelt, amaranth, those kind of grains are much better than the highly processed and modified wheat flours that we're used to getting, or white flours. I don't think white people should be eating white flour at all. You know, like, again, it's the white flour, white rice, and white sugar. That's like, I mean, I remember one time I read a thing, it was like the other white powder, talking about sugar. You know, it's like these things are that, and that's how really unhealthy these things are for us. So cutting out those basic things. But again, the soy is definitely the most mucus forming thing in a plant-based diet I think that you could have. And then it would go down to like the wheat gluten, which is seitan, and then breads. And sugar. I mean, it's just sugar.
Seitan wings, they were good.
Yeah.
Right. There's some really great ones.
I took a picture and I sent this to you. I was like, oh my God, it tastes like chicken.
Right. A lot of people, I mean, we make them out of mushrooms now and people, they look and they're like, oh my God, how does this taste so much like chicken? Even with the fried chicken using the mushroom, they're like, I'm blown away. Yeah. You know, women give them to their partners or whatever, or people
just try this.
Yeah, and they have no idea that it's vegan. You know, I've had vegans call back in and they're like, I'm vegan. I haven't eaten meat in 20 years. Like, what am I eating here?
Are you sure? I'm not going to get sick. Like, are you sneaking something in there? No, it's just that good.
Yeah.
Right.
That's it.
But yeah, mucus forming would basically be those things, and obviously sugar, acidic, acidic foods, anything fried, lots of potatoes, starches, that kind of stuff is just really not very good for us. You know, that's what's causing a lot of arthritis, a lot of pain, a lot of, you know, that type of stuff in the body. So basically all the foods that we all grew up on.
Pretty much.
that we all know to
re-raise ourselves.
Exactly.
That's how we eat. Like, that's just what we have to do.
Like unlearning everything you already learned.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Because when they taught us, it wasn't necessarily, those things weren't that unhealthy back then.
Right.
You know, in our age group, it's different now because, I mean, whoever's, you know, there's all different spectrums of that. There's people that are just now coming up and being like, oh, this is all the only food we've ever known.
Right.
You know, I had one employee, he didn't know what a mango was or a pineapple. Oh. Like, he only ever ate like chicken nuggets growing up because you live in communities and again, it's done by design. I absolutely see this in certain communities, in food deserts, and it's like, this is all you're ever eating, you know? So once he came to work there and just trying so many different things, he became one of the best bakers in the restaurant. It's like, wow, I love it cool. when it really was. Really cool. It's like this young, you know, man from Northwest Philly, and he just, you know, really, and they just, you learn so much and you expand your mind so much to being able to be open to new things.
Yeah. He didn't know what he didn't know.
Yeah. Right.
And that's like vegan guru.
Right.
I don't think I have any other questions. You have questions?
No, I think this was very informative, not just for me, but I'm hoping for our viewers and our listeners. Because even when you think, like you said, when you think you're being healthy, there are some things that you can still work on to get a little bit better with your own body and your own health. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. And not like shaming people into it, but just informing people. I think that's what it is. Just being informed about what we're doing to our bodies and the detriment it's going to have on us, because we're all young and we're like, oh, we feel great. But as we start to get older, as we start to get older, it's like, okay, we see the difference in how that affects our body. And seeing people in our families, that's the other side of it too. It's like when you and that's what it's amazing. I see like a woman changes her diet and she's like, oh my God, my whole family, it changed everything for the whole family. Now the husband feels better, the children are now educated about this.
Just need one person to be the change, right? And then everything else starts to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. I love to see that it's so popular now. It's good.
And I like that you said to incorporate something before taking away something.
Yeah, because then it's more sustainable.
Like something so simple like that. Like that just makes so much sense to me.
A lot of people are like, oh, I can't eat that. And it's like, well, that's not going to be sustainable, because in a week you're going to want that. And you're going to be somewhere and it's going to be the only thing that's available, and you're going to go back to it. So it's like, it's really learning what you can fill those voids with before there is a void, you know, because then it makes it sustainable, and that's what you really want it to be, is something that you can sustain and continue on with this lifestyle. And it doesn't have to be a diet or whatever. It's just a lifestyle.
Keep a balance.
Yeah.
All right, I think I'm done.
Yeah, I can talk.
I don't ever want to be. I'm like, what else you got?
I know.
Can you teach me how to make cake?
You're like, I want that protein cake.
Right.
I want to get my protein in cake
too. I got
too.
that for breakfast.
Yep.
All right, well, that is a wrap on this episode. I hope you guys learned a lot. I learned a lot.
Yes.
Make sure you check Nourish out. I'm telling you, you won't regret it.
Even hearing that from a meat eater,
I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure there's footage of me devouring cheesesteak somewhere. I'm telling you, do it. I need to go back because I want to try the chicken drum.
Yeah, that's so good. So good. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, ladies. I love being able to share this and educating people so more people can be informed about it.
Yeah.
And that's a wrap on that. Bye.